I've felt like the campaign was doing a really good job of generating excitement, and the Walls pick, I think, was inspired. But this slump that she's been in over the past week or two, one, I think we can obviously draw to the a conclusion that like her continuation of the Gaza policy is depressing
Hmm.
enthusiasm, of course, on the left. But there's also just this media strategy that I'm curious about what your take is, Dave, that is a continuation from the Biden campaign, where it's the same campaign infrastructure, same people running the campaign. And what I had thought was that, okay, they're not putting him out there for interviews, and they hadn't been doing that because of what we saw at the debate. He wasn't getting out there because the campaign was afraid to have him be out there for obvious reasons, and that seemed to make total sense in the wake of what we saw and him dropping out. But Harris's strategy of not talking to the media, it's been criticized. I think some of that's fair, some of that's unfair. But the reality is that it's become a story in and of itself because the press is frustrated, and
Yeah.
she can complain that that's an unfair story. I think there's some validity. But the reality is now I'm wondering if it's beginning to hurt her because Trump is going on all these alternative media sites, like he's doing Lex Friedman, he's doing Theo Vaughn, he's doing these a lot of media, as is JD Vance. And Vance is more on like the cable news circuit, and Trump's on the alternate media circuit. And that seems to be a better strategy than just doing rallies and kind of not talking to the press in the same way. Like, I wish Harris was doing more podcasts or things like that, right?
Yeah.
What's your assessment of that, and why is the Biden, or why is her campaign still pursuing the strategy when she can clearly speak extemporaneously?
Yeah, a couple things. Well, one, Biden was so weak that it was not just he couldn't do as many interviews as he was offered, but even at rallies, it was like skating on ice watching Biden because he could screw up at any moment. And
Right.
she hasn't had that problem. She's been a more commanding speaker. I'm not defending the campaign strategy because I think from talking to him throughout, and you get a little more insight at the convention. People are off the record. They didn't think they needed to because of it's about winning every news cycle every day, and it did take probably 2 or 3 weeks for the Trump drumbeat of she needs to do interviews thing to land because they saw, and I think they are right about this, the debate as the moment when people would say, can she handle pressure? Oh, yes, she can. This whole period from her becoming the candidate to now, she has gotten more popular. Her negatives have gone from -20 to tied to favorable. She's doing about as well. So she's doing as well as Biden was in some places in 2020. She's basically running at pretty far ahead of Hillary Clinton in favorables. The issue is really about Trump and what they can't control, which is one, Trump is more popular than he was previously for lots of reasons. I think the main one that no one can change is 4 years after president's in power, they say, things weren't that bad. He benefited from that. And so if this was Harris running against 2016 Trump, I think it'd be clear she wouldn't need to do anything. She'd be winning because people didn't want him to be president, but didn't trust her. She's in a bit. I think they solved one of their problems, which no one had solved before. Who has gotten into a campaign? Well, no one has in the summer, but who has been a national figure, totally well known for 6 years, started running for president and jumped 20 points? That doesn't happen. And they did that part, but they didn't answer the questions. And I was talking about the Trump campaign's response. The Trump drumbeat on this was desperate at first. Everything starts pretty desperate. If you remember the day that there was a dip in the S&P, J.D. Vance was demanding that Kamala go to the cameras and take questions. She wasn't ready president. You didn't need to go to the cameras and take questions to answer what was happening in the stock market. So it looked a little pathetic at first, and it got traction because there is a real story there of why Harris, who ran on a certain set of things in 2019, changed when she became vice president. The Harris campaign doesn't think this is super legitimate because she has been vice president for 4 years. Again, no one is going down Trump and saying, but in 2019 you said crypto's a scam and now you're not. That's true. I mean, he flipped his position, but he's not getting the same sort of scrutiny. They don't like the scrutiny. They have inherited the Biden team's cautiousness and frustration that the media, which really should be focused on Trump, keeps asking them stuff. And I think that's wrong because it's a fair question. I think there are a lot of liberals, not all of them vice presidents, who said some stuff in 2019, 20 they don't think anymore, and they could explain why. Hey, you said that defund the police was a good idea in 2020, and now you don't. Well, it's because I think that we need police reform, but it turns out that we don't need to cut police. We just need more funding for schools and violence interrupters. They have answers for this.
Right.
I've talked to candidates for Congress, and they'll say, and she hasn't done that. The risk that they worry about is, well, if she does that, she looks weak. And how do you solve the problem? Do you look weak by saying, I changed my mind on this, I changed my mind on that, or by not answering the question at all? Again, they looked at the debate and said, all right, there's going to be a moment where she'll be on stage with Trump. We'll have to be ready for those questions, which millions of people are going to see. If she is tough with him for 90 minutes, who's the voter who's going to say, well, she was tough with Trump, but she couldn't handle Leslie Stahl? I think they're right that voter doesn't exist. But they just haven't respected that it's a fair question to say, why is she different? Hey, maybe the story is like a lot of people who run for office multiple times. She changed on some of her positions while remaining a progressive. I get why they're annoyed because the press does treat them differently than it treats Trump, but they can't. I'm repeating myself.
No, well,
I mean, but it doesn't mean the question's unfair.
Right. I mean, I think I'm with you on this in the sense that it's not the same, but she's also running with a fundamentally different assumption that Trump is completely abnormal, and therefore, and that she is within the bounds of, let's say, decency. And so the standards are different than they are for him. That's, I guess you could say it's unfair. I mean, it is unfair, but it's frustrating. But life is unfair. Their point is they need to figure this out, right? Like if you've got a basketball team and your second best player injures themselves, you can't say well, this is not fair. Yeah. You still gotta win. And so
that was. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I think that's and so I guess with that said, have you heard do they have a strategy? I mean, it may be one thing they have a I mean, how much have they mapped this out? It makes sense to me that they could feel 3 weeks ago, look, the best thing for us to do is not to create any type of toehold for any type of criticism. So we're going to basically limit the amount that we expose you as a candidate until the debate. After the debate, it may be a different story, both because in terms of the way people pay attention. I mean, there's supposedly 2/3 of Americans are planning to watch tonight. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and the Trump campaign has kind of lived off the land, and when she's had an answer that just made sense but was a little wordy, they pretended it was completely incoherent. It's tough for you to do that in a debate. The thing I mentioned 2016, Hillary Clinton did not do a lot of interviews in the stretch of the campaign, and it's actually most candidates don't. Trump has this media ecosystem where Trump can go talk to one of his donors, Elon Musk, for 2 hours, and people on the right say, that was a tough interview. That's pretty new. But Hillary Clinton was not doing media because every time she did, including just forums that were supposed to be about some other topic, they'd be like, why don't people trust you? What about your emails? Why don't people trust you? And they just got, I think, gun shy because of that, because they were annoyed and because they never got a good clip out of it. I was at one of the events where she was talking about the Supreme Court being on the ballot, and the question was, in speech that, not my headline, but, Clinton evades email questions at speech. They don't have that problem. They have this other kind of buckshot thing they've got going on where Harris took a bunch of positions in the past, and she's come up with a unifying reason. Oh, my values haven't changed. I realized on climate we could do this instead of a fracking ban. I realized that on criminal justice reform we could be smart on crime. She has answers, and the worry that they have is, yeah, but let's say you spend 30 minutes and everything is putting her on the defensive. That's the paradox here, because the through line of every Trump attack is this candidate is not confident enough to handle a crisis or a foreign threat. That wasn't credible with Clinton because she was Secretary of State and Trump at that point was a TV star. They couldn't really say Hillary Clinton can't handle tough questions because she's weak. They ended up saying, she fainted, she might die. With Joe Biden, it was he's feeble, he's old, he can't handle them, and they were in a different media environment. with this, it's the newness of Harris, and she really is new to so many people who even voted for her, didn't pay a ton of attention last time.
Well, Dave,
it has been this attrition by Trump to say like she's too weak to do this, and the Democratic response is just this. I do think a fear, a combination of this fear that she would just get pinned on a 20 position changes, even if she has a good answer, and right when she could just do that in a debate and maybe make some of this go away. I think they are wrong because like there's nothing that stops a reporter from re-asking something that got asked earlier.
Well, I also think that they're afraid, it seems to me, of taking the onus off of Trump, but I don't think you can get away with just playing defense the entire time. But let me ask you this, Dave. Who is give me a sense of like, I imagine you've been spending a lot of time in the swing states to the extent that you've been out on the road at all. Do you have a sense of like what's going on in terms of like what are there cohorts that you have observed or you see that you would have thought are supporting Harris but are not, or vice versa in terms of Trump? I mean, what phenomena are you noticing out there?
No, it looks a lot like the Biden coalition of 2020 because the Biden coalition wasn't gathering much in public. The change I've seen and Democrats see is that one, there are voters under 30 who a lot of them could vote. Some of them are entering the electorate for the first time, and Trump is going past mainstream media because this whole time they're complaining. He's not sitting down with them meet the press. He's just doing podcasts. He's reaching out to racially diverse men under 30 who, if they vote, are a powerful bloc in a lot of states that didn't vote last time. That is their overall theory. And are they showing up to rallies and stuff? No, not really. I mean, this is a thing you'll find with a lot of Trump rallies. And this is why it's clearly gotten under Trump's skin that Harris is the first opponent he's had and get a big crowd. They keep trying to find ways to prove that they're not real by saying, well, there were people who were shuttle bus from one section to the other, or there were some buses that came from Massachusetts to New Hampshire, and there were, they rented them. They transferred people to New Hampshire. I've been to enough Trump rallies where you talk to four people, and the first four people you talked to came from out of state. You saw when in Butler when he was shot at. Two guys in the front row of the Trump rally did not live in Pennsylvania. They were the guy who imitates JFK Jr. or says he's JFK Jr. and Brick Suit, the guy who wears a brick suit to symbolize the wall. They just travel to Trump rallies and they're at them. So you haven't seen a change in who's showing up for Trump. It's more people who are just going to go to work, pay a little attention to the campaign, but on their podcast, it's like, whoa, Trump talked to this guy and he seems really relatable. I'm going to vote for him. That's the only new coalition shift I've seen, really.
Let me ask you this about Trump rallies. My understanding is that I don't know which congressman represented Butler, which Republican, but had said like, this is not a good place for you to have a rally. I've heard, and then there was a story in North Carolina, I think it was, that some city was demanding money up front from the Trump campaign because they had screwed them in the past. I have been reading, and I want to get your sense of this if you know anything about this, that the reason why Trump has been insistent on having outdoor venues is because all the indoor venues from 16 and 20 in this, and there's a relatively closed circuit because of the nature of our electoral college, that they've been burned and will not have the campaign there unless he pays in advance. So he's going to sort of alternate spaces. And the Secret Service now has to put him around like some type of Pope mobile so he can give a talk. Have you heard anything to that effect?
Yeah, it was Erie, Pennsylvania, where the rally was not the rally from last time Trump was there. The venue was never paid. They said, please don't come back here. And Erie doesn't have that many big venues. So that's definitely been happening. That has not been a problem with Democrats. When they complain about media pressure, this is one of the things that comes up because it was a story that I remember right now talking to you, that in 2015, Hillary Clinton left a poor tip at Chipotle. It is not a story in a media market that Donald Trump didn't pay for his rally, and they get annoyed that he doesn't take more flack for this. But that is true. He also is not running as much of a rally-centric campaign as he did in the past. He's got this debate. He's going to do a presser in California before a fundraiser. But this is, I think Felix Biederman sometimes talks about this being reverse 2016. It is a lot more like how Hillary was running at this point in the campaign, where she did what she had to do. She would have a rally to kind of get the earned media, but she was doing a lot of fundraising. And this is, we haven't talked about it yet. Trump got outraised by the Harris operation almost 3-1 in August. Well, is that repeatable in September? I'm not sure, but I haven't seen much of a tip-off in the online enthusiasm for Harris. So he's not doing as much in person. He's been everywhere. People know who he is. What is the return on investment of having yet another rally in a place he's been a lot? I mean, the thing the rallies teach you is more. He's going back to North Carolina. He's going back to Arizona, which means those things are not off the board yet. But he's not going to Virginia, which means it is. The rallies themselves are not driving a lot. He's doing a little more earned media, and usually you're doing the earned media. He's not out of money by any means. He can fund the campaign, but usually you're doing rallies and earned media. Sorry, you're doing earned media because it costs money to go on TV and it costs money to stage an event. Harris's plan, I believe, after the debate is much more immediately aggressive about going out in public. And this is again the thing. This actually reminds me a bit of what Trump is doing. Reminds me of what John McCain did in 2008. They had a problem that Barack Obama was very exciting. He got big crowds. The Trump people kind of goaded them into having town hall meetings that were smaller, where he would take questions because they got the press asking, "Hey, how come Obama is just riding on this wave and he's not as accessible?" They're doing a version of that with Harris, with the confidence that she is not as good at talking as Barack Obama is. And I do think a lot of this is going to get a revisit after the debate. If she tanks the debate, a strategy is going to change. If she comes out of the debate looking about as good as she did out of the Pence debate, which I think has been underrated how good she was, then yeah, they're going to revisit this. But I don't know if they're ever going to sit down and let's talk about these questions, because they learned this in 2020. Joe Biden said he wouldn't ban fracking, he wouldn't have defund the police infinite times. I mean, I remember him getting this question again and again when he went out. It did not stop the Trump campaign from buying ads with all the money they're raising for the paid media, saying that he was going to do it. He was going to ban fracking. He was going to defund the police. That's part of the caution, too. Not that I'm defending it, but it's not like she can give an interview answer so good that people stop asking about something she said in 2019. It's the Trump campaign, all right? You've got J.D. Vance right now urging people to make more racist anti-Haitian cat memes. Like they are not going to say, "Oh, you answered that. We're going to play fair." And that's the thing. How overly cautious do they become? How weak do they look? Because they just look at Trump, say he's not going to play fair. We're not going to bother. I think they've done too much of that in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. And then on the fracking ban in particular, right? Like she's just trying to blunt that. They're just trying to blunt what they know is going to come from the Trump campaign, right? But in terms of her debate strategy, we're hearing, we played this yesterday, Fox News and literally every conservative show is basically begging Trump in public not to go personal. And by personal, they mean don't talk about her race and don't talk about her gender. And, that seems to me like she should anticipate, and her team should anticipate that he's going to heed those calls, especially given the fact that the format is so helpful to him because they capitulated to the muting demands. So what is the counter to that counter? Like, what does she do then, as opposed to just looking competent and being able to speak about policy publicly? What's the counter to that?
Yeah, this is not me from inside the debate room. I mean, like they're all talking the same Democrats. They're not saying what the strategy is, but it's kind of overdetermined how much benefit women have gotten from Trump looking sexist. Like we remember him saying nasty woman to Hillary. We remember Harris saying I'm speaking to Mike Pence when he was actually kind of over talking, which won't happen this time. And those weren't why they did well in those debates. They did well because Trump was spun up. And the way to do that recently, and this is both friendly interviewers and more hostile interviewers, even the debate with Joe Biden, is just kind of mention something he wants to argue about, and he can go off into space talking about it. I mean, he did this. He'll mention half of a sentence that makes sense if you watch Rumble all the time, and it doesn't if you don't. And he'll refer to something he saw on TV 2 days earlier that sounds confusing. And what Trump could do to Biden that he can't as much unless Harris really tanks this, is just kind of break the fourth wall and say, I don't understand that. Did the audience understand that? there is a way to, because interviewers don't do this with Trump. There are not interviewers, especially in this kind of friendly zone of people who just want to hang out with him and talk about how great he is, who say, "But Mr. President, that answer made no sense." They say, "Well, let's get back to this."
This is
and
like the classic right-wing bubble problem that they have had forever, is that no one says, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And
yeah. And even a mainstream reporter, if they just want an answer, they'll just talk, and they say, "Yes, but come back to this." So what would happen if Harris says, "Well, I didn't understand what the foreign president says. Perhaps he's confused." And because I saw this work when Rick Scott beat
he's
Phil
going to lose
Nelson.
it. And here's the other thing.
Yeah.
The rules say, and people have not picked up on this, but the rules say that ABC can change the rules about the mics and the crosstalk. If they start cross-talking, they can unmute the mics. That is in the agreement. And I'm convinced that she's going to go in and she's going to do exactly what you said. Like, she's going to say something that is going to set Trump off. He's going to start cross-talking, and she'll start cross-talking, and then they'll go, "Okay, we're taking the mics off." And then it's off to the races, because if she has the ability to question him as he's talking, he's going to fall apart, I think.
That's her strength.
That's her strength. And so it's going to be interesting to see if ABC, the big tell is going to be this. If ABC at the beginning of the thing, if they announce, "We have an agreement to mute the mics. However, if there is excessive crosstalk," if they say that up front, then they will let those mics off. And I'm almost, just based upon Disney and how they penny pinch, they bought Bob's Burgers, so I'm aware of this. How they penny pinch and this and that. They're going to go for whatever is going to get them the most, sort of mileage on this. And I think the mute's going to come off. That's my prediction.
Oh, please.
But let me ask you one more question, Dave. From a reporting standpoint, do you have a sense of what's going on in terms of the ground game? Because this is so elusive, it seems to me, in terms of like making an assessment, because I hear so many different things. I think I remember, the Clinton campaign, we got a great ground game, but it turned out that they didn't have a great ground game, that they actually, instead of like sending out canvassers 2 or 3 months out, they modeled who their, algorithmically who their voters would be. And, we heard on the day after the election, we have Mike from Pennsylvania, who now has his own show, had called in and goes like, "I was doing Get Out the Vote, and we were knocking on 25% of the doors we were knocking on in Pennsylvania. They were Trump voters." And that's a huge screw up. What do you know about the ground game for the respective campaigns?
Yeah, Democrats have shared more about this, and they generally have more going through the Harris campaign and the National Party. They have a few state parties that are standouts. Everyone will tell you how good the Wisconsin Democrats are, who started in March. I was just in North Carolina, where they knew all year they'd have tight races statewide. They weren't sure about the presidential. And they were saying, they did in 2020. It took a while for us to get resources. This time in spring, when Biden was tanking, we were getting the money we need to hire people. What happened after that, this is the state party chair and other Democrats talking, is that just Harris swapped in, and there was this explosion of interest. And all these people who had not done anything since 2008 even were coming back. And the young voters who may not even been there in 2008, but they were getting a lot. Everyone who had a memory of 2008 was comparing it to that. And that's kind of what I saw at Democratic events. I was at Democratic events in areas that Trump won, where the crowd was all from within the county. The people who didn't look like diehard Dem voters, more kind of middle-aged, college-educated people who were Republican 10 years ago. At Republican stuff, I saw energy, but it was kind of organized through the local county Republican parties that have been, popular social clubs for a lot of people in these places. So I saw more top-level strong organizing from Democrats and a little more grassroots from Republicans, and they're always going to have that. they are confident they're going to have more money and more people knocking on doors run through a command center by Democrats than Republicans are. Republicans are counting on a lot more luck at the grassroots level.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. What's the next big thing? Okay, so we have the debate. The vice presidential debates in another week or two or so, right? Or early October.
It's October 1st, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess 3 weeks. What else, when you're looking at your calendar, are there dates where you say, if this is this way at this date, I get a sense that that's going to happen? Or is it just sort of like you're just going day by day?
Yeah, I this is a good week to talk about it, because I really thought after this debate, if the snap poll, if Harris is ahead before the debate, which she narrowly is, and if the snap polling says that she won the debate, I would say that is a good sign for her. I don't see anything that would crush Democratic enthusiasm in the next few weeks. But this tonight was my first benchmark. Was okay. Let's see how she does in this debate, because I thought this in June. If Biden had a good debate and didn't look that old in June, he would have come out of there fixing some of his problems with he's too old to be president.
Yep.
My read of the polling is that basically everyone who is not going to vote for Biden only because he was too old has moved over, almost all of them to Harris. I mean, there's almost no third party vote to speak of. The ones who were sticking with Kennedy are now, I mean, a lot of them split for Harris too, but went after Trump. So her favorables are 50-50. She does not have the Hillary Clinton popularity problem. She does not have the Biden 2024 age problem. She has Trump being seen by more people than he was in the past as somebody who could turn things around and bring change. And so how does she cut into that? It would start with the debate. And yeah, if you head into the election in that setting where she has retained her favorables and raised more questions about Trump, yeah, I think she would be favored. But I'm not really a prediction guy as much as what is snapshot at the moment guy.
Right.
That's why I was looking for this week to say, okay, they've done. I mean, if you told a Democrat in June, we're going to swap in Kamala Harris, her favorables are going to go up to 50%, and she's going to be tied or ahead of Trump in swing states, all of them would have said, that's great, we'll take that deal. So they're in a better position they expect to be, and they're still worried about it. They're right to be worried about it. I just think that we won't have another view of this until debate's off. Then there's the day of spinning what happened in the debate. There's the attempt to take the moment and make it into something. If she ends this week with more people saying, no, I think she's ready for this job and Trump's a little too right wing, then yeah, she's going to be in the best position of a Democrat running against Trump ever has, probably.
And RFK, is he gonna be a factor at this point, or is it is that already sort of baked in? Now we're seeing these head-to-head polls already, and
yeah,
RFK has done everything that all the damage he can do.
Good question, because this is Kennedy he talks all the time. I mean, he's talking about having a list of 4,000 interviews. He does them all. So he pops up on some podcast every day. He's pretty repetitive. I mean, his thing about Harris is he's annoyed that she didn't talk to him, and he's annoyed that she won't do interviews. The area he's trying to help Trump with, or I should say the demographic he's trying to help with, is what I talked about before, is you're a young man who thinks the system's broken. You didn't want to give Trump a third chance at age 78 to be president, but Kennedy says the system's broken, so we can do that. His ability to move people who are concerned about, for example, pesticides in the air, I don't think he's getting much traction on that. And to be fair, he doesn't talk that much about it. I mean, I don't want to sound churlish about this, because am I the best interviewer in the world? No. Do I demand everyone talk to me? No. But you do watch a lot of interviews that have no interesting content, because all the interviewer wants to do is hang out with the subject. And that's what a lot of Kennedy and Trump do. It's just, dang, I got this guy in front of me. You've lived through a lot of stuff. Do you want to talk for the hundredth time about the CIA, maybe killing your dad? He's not scoring points for Trump every day on there, but he's just present. And if you've got the right mixed media, you're seeing Kennedy on your phone all the time, reminding you that Trump is great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw him do some video with somebody who's some type of cultural, I don't know who it is, but she's got like, I don't know, 1 million followers on Instagram where he's jiggling. Did you see that one? Where he's jumping up and down or something?
Doing some sort of
I did see
TikTok.
that.
Oh, it was with Amber Rose. That's who it was with. It was with Amber Rose, right? Yeah.
Maybe facing crypto
I did
jeopardy
see
of
that,
some sort.
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
The
But that
whole,
is the kind of thing that does say, like, what is it? Now, he's not the candidate, but what is the downside of Harris doing some easy stuff that makes her look accessible? There really isn't. The campaign was too cautious. Would Trump have been satisfied ever? No. Was Trump demanding stuff that he wouldn't do? Sure. But, yeah, like, people are conditioned to just want some fun and some access from the candidates. They don't need for her to answer a specific set of questions, just like, oh, she's accessible and she can think on her feet.
I don't know
That's
why
what they
she's
want.
not going on like lifestyle podcasts and stuff like that type of thing. Like,
That's what I'm
honestly,
saying.
like, even like The View or,
She should be doing The View.
She
That
get hit. Like, how
she can cook.
how
That's
is
her
she- yeah.
thing, right? Like she likes to, she has good taste in food and alcohol and
that's like
music and stuff.
Bill
Like go
Clinton
out
going
there.
and playing the sax on Arsenio Hall, like that type of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
But
I think that, and all that stuff, I think would have happened if, let's say, Biden had said October last year, I'm out, and she would have run for the nomination.
Right.
It would have gone differently. She wouldn't have avoided that stuff. She couldn't have run from the Rose Garden. There would have been other Democrats thinking about it. It's just, you see their dilemma, is they got crammed into doing this in 100 days. And 100 days after we're now 60 days, or 56 rather. 56 after the election, you're not usually doing that stuff. But everything is new. I just definitely think and I do think with campaigns are like the return on investment from going on Meet the Press and talking for 20 minutes is lower than going on Theo Von
Colbert
show.
or
I think they're
Colbert
correct.
for that
Or
matter. Like
even
go
maybe.
on, you go on Colbert and then, whatever the shows. It'll be interesting to see if there's a change in strategy or tactics after this debate. But Dave, you're going to be in the room, aren't you? Are you going to be in the spin room?
In the media workroom, the spin room, which was really useful in June. I mean, and the first question I asked every Republican in June when the debate was over in the spin room was who was going to be the Democratic nominee. And I was saying, like, hey, I'm not being sarcastic. Who is it? And I not that I knew it was every beat of what would happen, but it was interesting that really only Matt Gaetz suggested they might try to swap out Biden. Every other Republican from the Trump campaign said, oh, well, it's too late. They can't do it. It'd be too hard. They're stuck with him, yada, yada. And it became very clear to me that
They had
Democrats were going to explore this.
Yeah, they had
Republicans did not want
no.
to drop
It's
Biden.
amazing to me how they were so flat-footed on this. I mean, like,
Gates is helping Trump with prep, by the way. That's one of the Gates and Tulsi Gabbard, right?
Yes, the Gabbard thing's interesting too because the legend of the Gabbard thing is that she destroyed Harris so badly that she never recovered, etc. That exchange with if you go back and watch it, one, Harris made a incorrect bet that it was smarter for her just to not engage with Gabbard because she was polling at 1%, and you look silly if you're polling at 20 arguing with a 1%er. She was too cautious in that moment, but that's the only thing you only get in a 20 candidate, well, at that point, 10 candidate debate. Like, you can't do that in a one-on-one debate. It's not even a question. And two, the answer was not bad or rambling. It was her just defending her record without engaging Gabbard. It's the kind of thing where I think if she did that with Trump, it would come off as a good answer, but it wouldn't include a fight. It wouldn't include like a punch back at him. And so what is the mix of that? That's what they're trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
Dave Weigel, always really it's so helpful in terms of understanding
Good.
and getting a perspective on stuff. Have a fun time in that media room. That media room, I've been in that room. It's sort of like, sort of feels like you're in a vacuum, I guess, on some level. Like everybody sort of, my experience of being in those debate rooms, and I was in a bunch of those, I think in 2016, it was fascinating to me to watch the reporters watch the other reporters. Like it reminded me of being in like in a room full of comedy network executives where everybody's looking for the cue from other people on some level. Like, wait, did somebody land a punch there? It's sort of fascinating, but and then you get the whole spin thing, which is also sort of interesting itself. But Dave Weigel, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys. Good talk.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.